You're listening to the Telltale Channel. If you like what I do and you want to see me continue to do it, don't forget to check out my Patreon. I just finished writing a book titled Was Hitler an Atheist? It talks about religions during the Third Reich and how they work together. Catholics, Jehovah's Witnesses, and Protestants. And I even address the lies told by the evangelical world about Bonhoeffer. It's on Audible and Amazon. This is Lawrence Krauss. He is one of the most mentioned people in the Epstein files, believe it or not. And he's also one of the most famous atheists on planet Earth. I wanted to talk about his connection to Jeffrey Epstein because it's pretty fucking vile, actually, as it turns out. But let me just give you an introduction to Lawrence Krauss if you don't know him. This is Lawrence Krauss and Richard Dawkins, the actual most famous atheists on planet Earth.
Yeah, when you say sex assigned at birth is arbitrary, it suggests that, in fact, sex is assigned and it's not real.
Okay, first of all, nobody says that sex assigned at birth is arbitrary. Anyway, okay.
And so it's the cultural aspect that's pushing people to make this confusion between gender and sex.
I think it would be like saying to an anorexic person who's skeletally thin, "It's okay, you're not thin. You're not. It's kind of like that. It's pushing them into it."
Yeah, well, and just
so. Affirming somebody's gender, just calling them she if they're trans, that's like telling an anorexic person that they really are very fat and that they should lose weight or something. Is that what he's saying?
So both you and I can get into more troubles. There's this thing of where fat shaming, where people who are extremely obese don't. There are health problems with being extremely obese, like it or not. But the current fad is to not suggest there's a problem there.
That's a lie, actually. You want to hear something really fascinating? I went on a whole deep dive into this and discovered that the Health at Every Size movement that claims that you are not fat if you are fat, or you're not, let me rephrase, that claims that you're not unhealthy for being very overweight, that whole thing is fake. It's astroturfed. There is a Health at Every Size organization that's existed since, I think, the 60s, the 70s, if I remember correctly. And the goal is to make people more comfortable. Basically, you should be able to go into a hospital waiting room and sit in a comfortable chair and not have to sit in a chair that's too tiny for you. Airplanes' seats should be larger and more comfortable. There should be a baseline level of comfortability. That's the bottom line. And this organization gets $300,000 in funding per year. But Kellogg, General Mills, and a bunch of other very famous companies, like the people that make Little Debbie, I forget who that is, they have been paying dietitians on the Tic Tac to make insane, egregious claims about how it's healthy to be heavy, and how if your body's telling you need another jelly donut, then it's because you need another jelly donut. The actual organization, Health at Every Size, brings in $300,000 a year. The influencers being paid to spread this garbage are being paid millions per year. That's called astroturfing. That's what that is, astroturfing. So anyway, this whole thing is fake. Hostess, is that what it is? Hostess? The company is named Hostess? Anyway, the point is it's all fake. It's all made up. And this dumb son of a bitch, this Epstein client here, fell for it like the sucker that he is.
I mean, to be proud of being that. And
Yes.
And I understand it, because you don't want to, the difference is you don't want to discriminate against people who are obese, but you don't have to say that it's healthy.
Nobody says that. Literally nobody, except for the dietitians being paid by Kellogg and General Mills.
Yes, quite.
And I'm sure I'll get hate mail for that one. But
Oh my God, who the fuck is sending him hate mail over something like that?
Anyway,
the point is, Lawrence Krauss is a complete sack of shit. But it gets worse, believe it or not. It gets worse. Here's the scale of his relationship with Epstein. Krauss's name is mentioned more than 5,200 times in the Epstein files, with thousands of communications dating back to 2006 when Krauss was at Case Western Reserve University. At least 60 emails were exchanged directly between Krauss and Epstein. Krauss's science outreach organization, the Origins Project, received $250,000 from Epstein. Krauss sought Epstein's advice on sexual misconduct allegations This is the most damning material. In late 2017, Krauss reached out to Epstein after being accused of sexual misconduct himself, and he sent him a draft response and writing, "Could use advice." Epstein responded by asking, "Did you have sex with her? Condom? Did she take it?" and advised Krauss not to respond. Krauss forwarded media correspondence to Epstein. The files show Krauss forwarding Epstein his correspondence with BuzzFeed news reporters investigating him, as well as communications with Arizona State University officials. Krauss sent Epstein draft versions of public statements, calling one a Kavanaugh version and another almost Jeffrey-level smart. They were best friends. You want to talk about Trump and Epstein being best friends? These guys were best friends. I think that Krauss probably replaced Trump, later on. Trump was Epstein's best friend through the 80s and 90s and 2000s, and then Krauss was best friends with Epstein from 2008 to 2017, or 2019, whenever he died. Just a reminder, I would really appreciate it if you guys checked out my Patreon. If you're not going to donate, you don't have to, but follow me there at the very least, owenmorgan.com/Patreon. Just in case something happens with the government or whatever. It would be really good if you had some way to connect with me and my content. I'm really concerned about that, and maybe you should consider that for other creators too. He tried to get a lawyer to consult Epstein. Krauss contacted lawyer Justin Dillon and made what he called an unusual request. He wanted Dillon to call Epstein for advice on his Title IX investigation. Epstein was furious when Krauss disclosed their relationship to the lawyer, writing, "Every email is to do with engagement/money. In the future, please do not disclose our conversations with who I speak, or please do not disclose our conversations or who I speak with. Exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark." How many do we have here? Exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. End quote. Personal closeness. In 2011, Krauss wrote Epstein. This is on the Globe and Mail, by the way. In 2011, Krauss wrote Epstein, "Beyond anything else, you are my friend. I hope we can always remember that no matter what." Pariahs Club joke. In 2018, Krauss responded to Epstein's joke about doing Men of the World conference by suggesting it include Kevin Spacey, Bill Clinton, Al Franken, and Woody Allen, all men publicly accused of sexual wrongdoing. Derogatory language about his accusers. In an August 2018 email after ASU, which was Lawrence Krauss's university, after ASU found he had groped a woman at a conference in Australia, Krauss asked Epstein for a seat on his jet and referred to the woman who made the incident public as the bitch. The Woody Allen connection. In January 2019, a text from Woody Allen's number to Epstein read, "Thinking of you as we're seeing Lawrence Krauss for dinner tonight." Epstein responded, "A member of Me Too casualties." Epstein tried to use Krauss for access, apparently. Documents from February 2026 Department of Justice releases indicate Epstein emailed Krauss attempting to get him to introduce Epstein to podcaster Joe Rogan. And he tried. Joe Rogan talks about how hard Lawrence Krauss tried to get Epstein on Joe Rogan, and Rogan just wanted none of it, fascinatingly. Regarding consequences, the Aristotle Foundation, a Canadian think tank that Krauss is associated with, cut ties with him after these emails were released, saying they were unaware of these allegations or his connection to Jeffrey Epstein. Again, that's from the Globe and Mail. Here, I'll show you. It's from this article. This is what I'm pulling from. But, God, it's got a paywall. So anyway, it's kind of frustrating. I hate paywalls. Regarding Krauss's defense of Epstein, believe it or not, it gets even weirder. Krauss told the Daily Beast, quote, in 2011, "If anything, the unfortunate period he suffered has caused him to really think about what he wants to do with his money and his time and support knowledge. Jeffrey has surrounded himself with beautiful women and young women, but they're not as young as the ones that were claimed. As a scientist, I always judge things on empirical evidence, and he always has women ages 19 to 23 around him, but I've never seen anything else. So as a scientist, my presumption is that whatever the problems were, I would believe him over other people." He added, "I don't feel tarnished in any way by my relationship with Jeffrey. I feel raised by it." So we know for a fact that Lawrence Krauss was accused by women and was upset that he was outed as the sex pest that he is, and referred to them as that bitch when to Jeffrey Epstein. That is wild, dude. This guy is the biggest piece of shit on planet Earth. Honestly, I am so sad to hear that. Also, notice he's using his position as a scientist to bolster his own credibility and to defend a predator, a literal pedophile. Regarding the Skepchick early encounter, when Skepchick, which is another YouTuber, reached out to Lawrence Krauss for context on his defense of Epstein, he essentially doubled down, claiming Epstein was the actual victim, that the teenage girls took advantage of him, and that they made false accusations to get his money. That's psychotic. This one is from Skepchick's website, skepchick.org. Absolutely insane. When colleagues questioned him, Krauss argued that Epstein was an easy target for those who want to take advantage of him, and that he believed Epstein when he told me, quote, and that he believed Epstein when, quote, he told me he had no idea the girls were underage. You're the biggest sucker on planet fucking Earth, then. Please. Even in 2011, he acknowledged seeing young women around Epstein, though, is the point. And regarding Krauss's island visit, in 2006, Krauss organized a conference on St. Thomas, funded by Epstein's foundation, which included a trip to Epstein's private island for dinner. I just created a new website, firesidewatch.com. You can watch videos with friends, and everybody can play or pause the video. I made it so I could collaborate with other YouTubers, but I figured I might as well make it available to everybody. On top of that, you can add videos to the queue, upvote them, and sort by most upvoted. Give it a look, firesidewatch.com. And while you're at it, check out my Patreon, owenmorgan.com/Patreon. You can follow me there for free. He helped invite roughly 20 well-known physicists, including Stephen Hawking. I didn't know that. MIT physicist and attendee Alan Guth later told the New York Times that Epstein was always followed by a group of something like 3 or 4 young women. Jesus Christ, dude. As recently as September 2015, Krauss was discussing visiting Epstein's Caribbean island again, telling him he was eager to see you down there, and that he was working to finish a book so I can actually celebrate that as planned. So I can actually celebrate that as planned on the trip. Epstein's PR strategy through Krauss. Epstein told Krauss to discredit his accusers by depicting them as irrational and opportunistic. Quote, concentrate on your point-by-point refutation. An article on women agreeing on seeing flying saucers does not make the claim real. Break the charges into ludicrous, ogling jokes, etc. That's Arizona Free News that reported on that one. Right here. Ex-ASU professor, renowned atheist physicist, asked Epstein for sexual misconduct advice. Krauss also served as a gateway for Epstein into the scientific community. At 2017 Origins Project workshop on artificial intelligence, Epstein showed up with 2 young East European-looking women, according to a postdoc who attended. Krauss introduced him as my friend Jeffrey. In 2014, Krauss put Epstein in touch with Scientific American's editor-in-chief, which led to Epstein being invited to observe editorial meetings at the magazine. He also emailed Krauss asking him to introduce him to Joe Rogan, as I said earlier. So I guess he's basically rebuilt his career outside of academia, Krauss has. He runs the Origins podcast with Lawrence Krauss, launched in 2019, and publishes a Substack blog called Critical Mass. In 2024, he edited a book called The War on Science. Oh, I remember that book. It was complete trash. It was a collection of essays from 39 academics addressing perceived threats to academic freedom, like DEI programs, wokeness, and cancel culture. Seriously. I should read that. You know what? I'm going to get a copy of it, actually, come to think of it. Give me a second. We'll go through some of it, probably. Let's see. See if I can find it real fast. Oh, legal, like. Yeah, legal. Yeah, we'll do it on your terms, motherfuckers. Hold on. I'm sorry, I got to do the bit. It's a requirement. A legal requirement for me to do the bit.
In Jasper County, motherfuckers, I'm coming for you. Yeah, motherfuckers, I'm coming for you. Yeah. All legal like. Yeah, legal. We'll do it on your terms, motherfuckers.
Yeah, all legal. We'll do it on your terms, motherfuckers. I'll find the book. All legal.
We'll do it on your terms, motherfuckers.
I love it so much, dude. I'm sorry. It's so good. Anyway, I'm going to get this book by Lawrence Krauss, All Legal, and we're going to read it. We'll read it on air at some point. Anyway, the point is Lawrence Krauss is a complete piece of trash all the way down. Just a vile scumbag. Completely fucking worthless in one man's humble opinion. Let me know what you think about him in the comments. I am connected to him in some ways. So I don't know. Maybe I can get a message to him about what a complete sack of shit he is. Tell me your thoughts. We'll be right back. Don't forget to check out my Patreon. Also, take a look at my website, owenmorgan.com. I just finished writing a book titled Was Hitler an Atheist? It talks about religions during the Third Reich and how they work together. Catholics, Jehovah's Witnesses, and Protestants. And I even address the lies told by the evangelical world about Bonhoeffer. It's on Audible and Amazon. This is Kenneth Cook Jr. This is Governing Body Update number 1, 2026. So I just want to listen to what these poor fools have to say. These Jehovah's Witnesses.
January 1st, 2026 marks 50 years since a significant organizational change was implemented. The Proclaimer's book described it as one of the most significant organizational readjustments in the modern-day history of Jehovah's Witnesses.
And you wrote the Proclaimer's book. These people oversaw the writing department who put that in the Proclaimer's book. They're using their own books as evidence of the things that they say. They have a long history of doing this.
What was it? The members of the governing body were organized into 6 committees: personnel, publishing, service, teaching, writing, and what is now known as the Coordinators Committee. All activities of the organization and congregations around the earth came under the supervision of these committees. On February 1st, 1976, the governing body implemented a related change in the way that branch offices are organized. Instead of one branch servant caring for the work of each branch territory, the governing body appointed branch committees comprised of 3 or more experienced elders. Jehovah's blessing has been evident. In 1976, there were 2.1 million publishers, but now, 50 years later, there are more than 9 million publishers.
Yeah, that's true. They are growing, Jehovah's Witnesses, but believe it or not, to my understanding, their growth is lower than population growth. So actually, they're shrinking, kind of. They're not growing at the same rate that we would expect them to be growing if they were at least keeping up with population, which means really the only way they're bringing people in is by getting their children baptized. Going door to door and knocking and, street witnessing and stuff is bringing in almost nobody. But their numbers show that they're not even retaining the children of the members. So yeah, they're growing. Fantastic for them. Great. Bad for us, of course. But you're growing almost not at all. In fact, you're going backwards, really.
We're grateful for Jesus' loving guidance as head of the congregation. He's overseeing the preaching work and blessing our efforts to adapt our methods so we can reach as many as possible. We all enjoyed the recent campaign featuring the Watchtower entitled An End to War.
We did? We all enjoyed that? Okay.
How? Reports have come in from around the world, and our brothers and sisters were excited to share this magazine, and people eagerly responded to its timely message. Our public magazines continue to be an effective tool in the ministry, as you know.
They're really not effective at all. Again, they bring in almost nobody through door knocking or anything, which is why they decided not to require members to log their hours anymore. That was a huge change, in my opinion. I can't even believe they did that a while back. You don't have to record or report your hours anymore. Insane.
Each year we have 3 public editions of the Watchtower and 3 of the Awake that can be highlighted in the ministry. This is another option we can use as we start conversations in the ministry and endeavor to start Bible studies. For January and February, we will have the pleasure of offering the public edition of the Watchtower entitled, Does God Care About You?
So they're doing 3 per year of each then? Is that what they're saying?
With so much unrest in the world, what an appropriate topic. No doubt we're all eager to use this magazine in our ministry. Be sure to obtain copies at your local Kingdom Hall. In 2021, a new Bible study aid was released, Enjoy Life forever. Since then, over 1 million people have been baptized. As Jesus foretold, many are responding to the truth.
The truth, quote unquote, drives me nuts when people call it that nowadays. Like Jehovah's Witnesses still call it that, and people who come out of Jehovah's Witnesses sometimes call it that as well. I always have to correct them.
No doubt we would all enjoy conducting a Bible study with someone who is eager to learn the truth.
The truth.
What direction do we have on how to conduct an effective Bible study using the Enjoy Life Forever book? In 2021, using Enjoy Life Forever in the Ministry, also known as the S-196 form, was made available through the congregation.
This looks like Korean.
In addition, the brochure Love People, Make Disciples provides practical instruction. Appendix C is entitled How to Conduct Bible Studies Using Enjoy Life Forever. We've also had parts on the midweek meeting and Watchtower study articles to help us use this tool effectively.
I swear to God, their cadence is so cringy and weird and hard to get through. Just a reminder, I would really appreciate it if you guys checked out my Patreon. If you're not going to donate, you don't have to, but follow me there at the very least, owenmorgan.com/Patreon. Just in case something happens with the government or whatever. It would be really good if you had some way to connect with me and my content. I'm really concerned about that, and maybe you should consider that for other creators too.
But now that we've had several years of experience in using this publication, we've learned some valuable lessons. Thus, we're happy now to share the following updated direction. Let's consider 4 points. First, how much material should we cover each week? Second, do we have to play all of the videos? Third, how should the Explore section be used? And fourth, how can we tailor the material to our students? First, how much material should we cover each week? Make it your aim to cover one lesson every week if possible. Of course, this may vary depending on your students' circumstances. Something that can help us cover one lesson each week is to avoid getting bogged down in discussing the first few paragraphs of the lesson. The first part of the lesson is only the introduction. It's like an appetizer before the main course. So let's keep the discussion of those.
God, these people are so fucking weird, dude. How did I ever remain a part of this for as long as I did? I don't understand how I managed that.
First few paragraphs brief. How can we do so? We can encourage our students to read the introduction of each lesson when they prepare for the study. If they do, we do not need to read it again during the study. Instead, we can just discuss the bold questions and read
the bold questions.
Read scriptures. That will allow more time for the dig deeper section. In some languages, the dig deeper section features videos. This leads to our second question. Do we have to play all of the videos?
Yes, right?
Initially, that was the direction that was provided. However, we would now like to clarify that it is not necessary to play all of the videos.
Interesting.
If a certain video does not seem to apply to our student, we do not need to play it.
So you're saying you're trying to save time, I guess.
Realistically, in order to cover one lesson in a study session, it may not be possible to play all of the videos. The goal is to keep the discussion moving so the student stays engaged. Thus, while preparing for the study, we can prayerfully decide which videos to consider and which not to consider, based on our knowledge of the student. Some publishers may not be able to use the videos because they do not have access to the internet. If that's the case where you live, don't feel bad if you can't play the videos at
They are so plastic, dude.
your study. Simply cover the written material in Enjoy Life Forever.
That's the book they study with Jehovah's Witnesses, if you were unaware. Like, they're trying to bring people into the religion. They study this Enjoy Life Forever book. And I've gone through a little bit of it.
Remember, the Bible is our primary textbook. By relying on the scriptures and the material in the Enjoy Life Forever book, you can conduct an effective Bible study even without videos. Our third question: how should the Explore section be used? During the study, it's not necessary to cover the Explore section. That section is simply a resource to answer our student's questions or to address his needs. Based on his needs, we could simply encourage our student to review on his own something in the Explore section that would especially help him. Question number 4.
Or her? Like, you're leaving women out of the equation, huh?
How can we tailor the material to our student? The lessons in Enjoy Life Forever progressively build on a foundation of Bible truth. So generally, it's best to follow the lessons in the order they appear. But we can be flexible. Depending on the needs of our student, we may choose to jump ahead or even back to a lesson that will especially help him.
So they're basically saying you're tailoring the quote-unquote lessons to be useful to the student, as you refer to them, giving people a little bit more freedom to choose what they think would be best for this person. That's surprising, actually. I'm surprised to hear that they're giving that much latitude to people. I just created a new website, firesidewatch.com. You can watch videos with friends, and everybody can play or pause the video. I made it so I could collaborate with other YouTubers, but I figured I might as well make it available to everybody. On top of that, you can add videos to the queue, upvote them, and sort by most upvoted. Give it a look, firesidewatch.com. And while you're at it, check out my Patreon, owenmorgan.com/Patreon. You can follow me there for free.
For example, what if your student recently lost a loved one in death? Depending on the circumstances, you may choose to cover Lesson 29. What happens when we die? After that, we could go back to where we had left off in the book. In other cases, we may decide that a certain lesson is not appropriate for our student. It may be that in the area we live or in the culture of our student, that particular topic is not applicable.
In what circumstance would that even be the case?
What should we do? We can simply skip that lesson.
That's crazy.
The point? Be flexible and adapt to the needs of your student. The Apostle Paul was flexible. Do you remember what he said at 1 Corinthians 9:20-22? To the Jews, I became as a Jew in order to gain Jews. To those under law, I became as under law.
So you're saying you're a social chameleon, that you kind of deceived people to make them think that you were somebody other than who you actually are in an effort to kind of sucker people into being a part of your movement?
Though I myself am not under law, in order to gain those under law. To those without law, I became as without law, although I am not without law toward God, but under law toward Christ, in order to gain those without law. To the weak, I became weak in order to gain the weak.
Yeah, you deceived people into thinking that you related to them. Okay, got it.
I have become all things to people of all sorts, so that I might by all possible means save some. Now, there's one more situation some may wonder about. What if your student gets baptized before finishing the book? What should you do? The answer is found at Colossians 2, verses 6 and 7.
Bro, these people are so fucking cringy, I swear to God. I'm sorry, this is too much.
There, the Apostle Paul stated the goal that all baptized Christians have. Just as you have accepted Christ Jesus the Lord, go on walking in union with him, being rooted and built up in him, and being stabilized in the faith, just as you were taught, and overflowing with thanksgiving. We want our students to be stabilized in the faith. So what will we do if our student gets baptized before we finish the book? We want to continue studying with him until he completes the publication.
Even if he gets baptized, you're going to study the book with him still? Interesting. Okay.
This will help him to be made firm in the faith. Now here's one final reminder. Of course, congregation publishers no longer report the time they spend in the ministry. But don't forget that if you conduct a Bible study, on your report you should include the number of Bible studies you are conducting. With the adjusted direction provided in this update,
So that when I was younger, they used to have little pieces of paper, little slips. They're called time slips, and you fill them out every month. Like, how many hours were you out there knocking on doors or talking to people about Jesus or whatever? And how many return visits did you have? How many book studies did you have? Things like that. And I suspect part of the reason that they said you don't have to report those things anymore might be because of GDPR, because people can request those things. You turn those into the world headquarters. And the European Union basically said you have to legally provide all data to people that you have on them if you're keeping data on them. So they've chosen to not do that anymore, I guess. I don't know if that's the reason why. That's just my suspicion. It was a pretty big deal at the time.
conducting. With the adjusted direction provided in this update, it will be easier for us to help students progress faster and to enjoy their study even more. In this update, we've seen how Jehovah's organization is united in pure worship at conventions, through organizational adjustments, and in our ministry. We've also discussed how to conduct effective Bible studies using the Enjoy Life Forever book. Simply put, tailor the material to the needs of your student and keep the study moving. As we apply these suggestions, we will experience the joy of making disciples. But what if you feel intimidated at the thought of conducting a Bible study?
Then
Take to heart the reassuring
then you're not a good Jehovah's Witness if that's the case.
at the thought of conducting a Bible study. Take to heart the reassuring words of Philippians 2:13. God is the one who, for the sake of his good pleasure, energizes you, giving you both the desire and the power to act. Yes, ask Jehovah to give you the desire and the power to conduct a Bible study.
So the answer is, if you're uncomfortable cramming Jehovah's Witness shit down people's throats, then get used to it. Deal with it, because that's part of the process. Is that right? Is that what he's telling us?
Jehovah is the giver of every good gift and every perfect present. You can look forward to receiving a wonderful answer to that prayer.
Bro, these people are so fucking cringy, I swear.
Brothers and sisters, we love you very much and appreciate your hard work in the ministry. From the world headquarters of Jehovah's Witnesses, this is JW Broadcasting.
The end. Anyway, I swear they're so cringy and plastic and stiff and weird. I used to be like this, dude. I could probably still kind of imitate the cadence, like their style of speech and everything. If this doesn't scream cult, I honestly don't know what would. Tell me what you think in the comments. We'll be right back. Don't forget to check out my Patreon. Also, take a look at my website, owenmorgan.com. I just finished writing a book titled Was Hitler an Atheist? It talks about religions during the Third Reich and how they work together. Catholics, Jehovah's Witnesses, and Protestants. And I even address the lies told by the evangelical world about Bonhoeffer. It's on Audible and Amazon. There's this article on Hemant Mehta's website, Friendly Atheist. It's titled, Oklahoma Finally Scraps Bible-Heavy Conspiracy-Laced Social Studies Standards. If you don't remember what happened here, there's a guy named Ryan Walters who famously became the superintendent. He was chosen by a board, I believe, and then he was elected later. And he did some absolutely insane stuff with the curriculum in Oklahoma schools. He was superintendent over all Oklahoma schools, and it was nuts. The things that he said and did were absolutely nuts. And he ended up quitting not too long ago to work for some think tank somewhere, I believe. And I guess they're kind of starting to dismantle all the damage that he did, basically, while he was there. So I just want to read this article by Hemant Mehta and see what's going on with him. In the latest bit of good news out of Oklahoma, the state's Department of Education has released a new version of its standards for public school social studies classes. I think he instructed teachers to teach from the Bible in social studies, if I remember. These are the required topics teachers must incorporate into their lessons. And unlike the version promoted by the former superintendent of public instruction, Ryan Walters, which were so blatantly illegal that the state Supreme Court struck them down in September. The new draft doesn't lean into Christian nationalism or right-wing conspiracy theories. The new version was released last week by Walter's replacement, Lindell Fields, who promised months ago that he would fix the mess Walters left behind. When asked in October if he would do something about the standards, he responded in a very understated way. Quote, "I think there will be some changes to them, yes." So who is Lindell Fields? Let's see if I can find info on him. 30 years experience in education, specifically within career tech system, improving reading proficiency. Before his role, he's superintendent and COO of Tri-County Technology Center. Interesting. He emphasizes building high-performing cultures and supporting classroom teachers and staff. So he seems legit, tentatively. I guess we'll see. He has experience, unlike a lot of these people, so there's that. Why were the changes so necessary? Let's go back to December 2024, when Walters said in a press release that his new standards mention the Bible and its historical impact over 40 times. Here's a line from it. They include Superintendent Walters' Bible curriculum recommendations and mention the Bible and its historical impact over 40 times. Oklahoma is putting the Bible and the historical impact of Christianity back in school. Eradicate radical woke influences from our schools. What were some of those lessons? First graders would be taught the purpose and meaning of the Pledge of Allegiance and the significance of the phrase under God. They would also have to explain the meaning of "In God We Trust" and the importance of religion to the American people. Second graders would be taught stories from Christianity that influenced the American colonists, founders, and culture, including the teachings of Jesus of Nazareth, like the Golden Rule, for example, or the Sermon on the Mount. Eighth graders would have to evaluate the role of Judeo-Christian ideals in supporting colonial demands for independence. Wow. As exemplified by the Bible being a frequently cited authority by America's founders. Spoiler, it wasn't a frequently cited authority. No, it wasn't. In fact, we were the first secular constitution ever on this scale at a bare minimum. But, you know, he's going to lie and twist things around and everything. It's just vile how these people fucking lie. Drives me insane. For high school students, the indoctrination was even stronger. Christianity and slavery were only connected in the standards through Christian humanitarians who called for its abolition. But there's no mention of how the Bible was often used to justify enslavement. In U.S. government classes, students would have to describe how the Constitution was influenced by religion, morality, and the Bible as a frequently cited authority by America's founders. And in world history classes, the Bible was cited as a historical text, and students would have to describe how Christianity worked in ancient Rome, including the meanings and effects of Jesus of Nazareth's words as recorded by Matthew. Matthew didn't write Matthew. This drives me nuts. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John were not written by Matthew, Mark, Luke, and or John. In fact, there's a lot wrong with Ryan Walters' teaching standards, but the dude himself is a fucking scumbag. I don't normally like to talk about politics on this channel anymore, but sometimes religion and politics intersect, especially when it comes to like Christian nationalists. So this type of thing I'm fine with.
Hi, my name is Aaron Baker. I'm a high school social studies teacher in Oklahoma, and this is one of two God Bless the USA Bibles that was sent to me by State Superintendent Ryan Walters.
So I believe he had all social studies teachers receive what I think is a Trump Bible, or maybe it isn't a Trump Bible. Maybe it's just a Ryan Walters Bible or whatever. But it had very specific things in it. Just a reminder, I would really appreciate it if you guys checked out my Patreon. If you're not going to donate, you don't have to, but follow me there at the very least. owenmorgan.com/Patreon. Just in case something happens with the government or whatever. It would be really good if you had some way to connect with me and my content. I'm really concerned about that. And maybe you should consider that for other creators too.
After months of claiming that one of these Bibles was going to be in every Oklahoma classroom, two finally arrived at my school with my name on it, specifically because I teach AP, U.S. government, and politics. Now, I don't want to talk today about the issue of Bibles in classrooms. If you want to see a catalog of my world religions library in my classroom, you can see a previous video about that. I want to talk about this Bible in particular. When I first received this Bible, the first thing that struck me was that it was very generic, leather-bound, King James version of the Bible, just like I grew up with, probably owned a dozen or more.
King James Version is a bad copy. They basically, like in the 1700s, they had few sources to work with at the time. And over the past few hundred years, we've discovered more sources. I believe one of the sources they were working from was in the Vatican archives, and it's like 1,500 years old or something. And it's called the Byzantine source, if I'm not mistaken. And then there's the Alexandrian source. And the Alexandrian source was not discovered until fairly recently, but the Alexandrians actually lived in the region at the time and were recording what was happening directly and had nearly a complete copy of a lot of the books of the New Testament, for example. So the Alexandrian source is more definitive and better because it has a lot of this information available. And you can see where the Byzantine source cut stuff out and left verses out and changed words and things like that to fit their narrative, which happens over time, you know? It's not a big deal or whatever. It's just, as historians, people had to go through and make sure that they weren't trusting sources that were not fully trustworthy. The closer to the original time frame we can get, the better. So we use the Alexandrian source nowadays to get a few hundred years closer to when it was originally written. And the Alexandrian source shows us that the Byzantines modified a bunch of shit. So modern Bible translations cut a bunch of Byzantine source material out and used the Alexandrian source instead. But the New King James Version, they retranslated everything from the Byzantine source and ignored the Alexandrian source. So it's less accurate. The New King James, the NKJV, is a poorer translation than other modern translations that we have. We shouldn't be using New King James. If you want to know the chosen translation by scholars, it would be the RSV, the Revised Standard Version, NRSVA, the New Revised Standard Version, anglicized, I believe. NRSVA is the one you should be looking for. That's what scholars use. But okay, I guess they're going to completely ignore scientific and historical discoveries. So whatever.
In my lifetime. It's not a study Bible. There's no in-text commentary. There's nothing unique about the version in and of itself. The only thing that is quote-unquote special about this Bible is that in the back, when I was a kid, where the maps used to be, is where we find a letter from Lee Greenwood, followed by the Declaration of Independence, followed by the Constitution of the United States, the Bill of Rights, the Pledge of Allegiance, and then a place for notes. So I was looking through, I came across the Constitution, and since I teach government, I was interested in the presentation. As I mentioned, the Bill of Rights is listed here as well. Although the Bill of Rights are part of the Constitution. And then if the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments to the Constitution are mentioned, and then that is directly followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, something became apparent to me. One could say that parts of the Constitution are missing, particularly amendments 11 through 27. But you could also make the argument that this is the wrong Constitution, in fact. The Constitution in this Bible contains what's called the Three-Fifths Compromise, which was summarily removed by the 13th Amendment to the Constitution, which abolished slavery in the United States.
So they excluded the Constitution, the other amendments. They left them out of this translation of the Bible. That's wild, dude. That is a wild, egregious, I can't even call it an oversight. I just created a new website, firesidewatch.com. You can watch videos with friends, and everybody can play or pause the video. I made it so I could collaborate with other YouTubers, but I figured I might as well make it available to everybody. On top of that, you can add videos to the queue, upvote them, and sort by most upvoted. Give it a look, firesidewatch.com. And while you're at it, check out my Patreon, owenmorgan.com/Patreon. You can follow me there for free.
The 14th Amendment is also missing from this Constitution, and that is where we get the due process of law. This is not an accident. This is an incomplete, at best, Constitution that's in this Bible, and it's a dishonest Constitution, and it's not the Constitution that I teach in my classroom. I believe that this firmly indicates that we are exiting a stage of MAGA revisionist history where the message is that slavery was not that bad, and we are firmly entering into one of the final stages of MAGA revisionist history, and that is that slavery never existed. And that's what appears to happen in this Constitution, in this Bible, because the original articles of the Constitution does not use the word slavery. The 13th Amendment has a direct reference, and if you are trying to rewrite history, leaving those amendments out will help make that point. This is very concerning, and I wanted to raise the alarm on the fact that this kind of blatant revisionist history is being pushed into our schools in Oklahoma, and it needs to stop.
So the point is, that shit's disturbing. That's the type of shit that Ryan Walters was doing. That's the kind of thing, that's the kind of legacy that he left behind. And it's absolutely insane. Okay, I just want to show you something. Yes, you can see my big, beautiful leg here on screen. Okay, I'm using my phone camera here. This is American Patriots Bible. And it's absolutely psychotic. I'm sorry, I'm trying to pull it up here. See if I can. All right, this is the American Patriots Bible. And it's got some really psychotic stuff in here. So you've got like a bunch of Christian documents, like you've got the Bible and stuff. And then you have a bunch of founding documents here. Like randomly, you've got, your book of Genesis and stuff, book of Exodus. And then at random points, it'll talk about stuff like Noah Webster and education. Noah Webster, who was called the father of American scholarship and education, was the great American lexicographer who gave us the very first American dictionary of the English language, so on and so forth. Let's see, the Law of the Nazarite. And then here's another spot, Numbers 27. It just kind of jumps into, it is impossible to rightly govern the world without God in the Bible. I mean, this is the type of shit that they were sending to schools. I think this one was produced specifically by like David Barton. See, hold fast to the Bible as the sheet anchor of your liberties, write its precepts in your hearts and practice them in your lives. To the influence of this book are we indebted for all the progress made in true civilization. This is supposedly Ulysses S. Grant? Like, is this even real? Half the shit isn't. Faith of the founders. The founders largely didn't have faith to speak of. Especially like Thomas Jefferson. They have to cherry pick and find all of these little spots where they talked about Jesus to any degree. And then in the back, you've got, you got the book of Jude. Look, the book of Jude at the top says America. Absolutely insane, dude. Absolutely wild. And then at the back, we've got the normal maps, Samaria, Ephraim, Simeon, Moab on this side. Where's your Constitution? Is the Constitution in here somewhere else? Is it at the front? A call to action. Let's see. What's a call to action say? During some of the darkest days of the Civil War, President Abraham Lincoln reminded his fellow Americans that we've been the recipients of the choicest bounties of heaven. They're pretending Abraham Lincoln was a Christian. He was bi at the bare minimum. He did not fit their mold of Christian nationalist at all. We've been the recipients of the choicest bounties of heaven, to be born in a land of freedom, to live in a nation founded as one nation under God by those who served the one true God of the Bible, is both a tremendous privilege and a great responsibility. I was hoping to find... I'm wondering if they have, like, the Bill of Rights in here, if they include the entire Constitution. Do they not even have the Constitution? There's no way they excluded the Constitution from a book like this. The 7 Principles of the Judeo-Christian Ethic. Deaths of family members, military and public service, Look, a map of the United States. Insane, dude. The 50 states, ancestors of interest, family records, holy matrimony. This certifies that blank and blank were united in holy matrimony. Insane. Absolutely fucking nuts, dude. Patriots Bible is what this is called. The Patriots Bible. The Word of God and the Shaping of America. And they have this fake picture of George Washington here kneeling and praying next to his horse. This is a painting, not an actual photograph of Washington. But they use this in British Israelism to claim that the founding fathers were the real Jews and that they dedicated the United States to God and all that other shit. It's insane. Absolutely insane. The point is, that's the type of shit that they're sending to the schools. You know what? I'm not actually sure. Yeah, this is New King James Version as well. That seems to be the chosen version for Christian nationalists for some reason. I should look into that. I'm sure there's a good reason for it. Anyway, I am glad to see that Ryan Walters is out because he was nothing but destructive. It sounds like, this new guy is getting rid of all of that nonsense. So that's fantastic news. Anyway, tell me what you think in the comments. We'll be right back. Don't forget to check out my Patreon. Also, take a look at my website, owenmorgan.com. I just finished writing a book titled Was Hitler an Atheist? It talks about religions during the Third Reich and how they work together. Catholics, Jehovah's Witnesses, and Protestants. And I even address the lies told by the evangelical world about Bonhoeffer. It's on Audible and Amazon. Apparently, Kevin Sorbo got into a feud with a trans person who I'm not super clear on. I believe, is an attacker, attacked a school or something. We're going to find out in a second what the deal is with this. We're going to read an article on it, but I want to listen to what Sorbo said. I guess he posted a tweet and the attacker responded to his tweet.
New details about the alleged trans gunman who opened fire at a youth hockey game, killing 2 people, injuring 3 others.
By the way, this is Newsmax. Don't trust a word out of their mouths.
Turning the gun on himself. Just days before this shooting, that suspect, Robert Dorgan, appearing to become angry after this. Actor Kevin Sorbo writing on X, Tim McBride is a man. Community note this if I'm wrong.
Right. So this is Sarah McBride, our first trans congressman, and this is a scumbag thing to do. He's a piece of shit. Kevin Sorbo is. Why can't you just leave people alone? I don't understand why this is any of your fucking business, and you can't just let people live their lives without harassing and bullying them and treating them like shit. I don't get it.
Alongside a photo of the Delaware Democrat McBride, a biological man identifying as a woman, is indeed a member of Congress. Well, here's where Dorgan comes in. He says this to Sorbo's tweet: keep bashing us, but do not wonder why we go berserk. Actor Kevin Sorbo joining me now. On unfortunate terms, obviously, from what happened, and a sad moment for the family, the friends, and obviously all those that are impacted in that community. But just sticking to the statement that you put on X and then finding out, I'm just curious of what is running through your mind, finding out that the alleged gunman responded to your post on X about McBride.
Well, I have no idea who this crazy guy was to begin with. I posted that out there because I'm a firm believer in the truth. And
well, he's a firm believer in being a piece of shit that harasses and attacks people for no reason, who did nothing to you. Sarah McBride did nothing to him. He just wants to be a scumbag and succeeds gloriously. So let me just kind of scan through exactly what happened. On Monday, February 17th, 2026, Roberta Dorgan, aged 56, is trans, opened fire during a youth hockey game at Lynch Arena in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. That's evil, obviously. No excuse for that. Full stop. Dorgan killed their ex-wife, Rhonda Dorgan, and their adult son, Aiden Dorgan, and critically injured 3 others. Rhonda's parents, Linda and Gerald Dorgan, and a family friend, Thomas Garuso. Dorgan then died of self-inflicted gunshot wound. Several bystanders heroically rushed the shooter and wrestled him down. Several bystanders historically rushed the shooter and wrestled them to the ground during the attack, likely preventing more casualties. That's what I'm reading about what happened. Here's the background. Dorgan was a trans woman who also went by the names Roberta Esposito and Roberta Dorgano. Dorgan had undergone gender reassignment surgery in 2020, and that same year, Rhonda Dorgan filed for divorce, citing gender reassignment surgery, narcissistic personality disorder traits as grounds. The divorce was finalized in 2021. There'd been years of heated family court disputes over Dorgan's identity and its impact on the family. Police described the attack as a targeted family attack, not a random or ideologically motivated mass attack. So it wasn't ideologically motivated. This person was just had a screw loose, basically, is my understanding. The day before the attack, Kevin Sorbo posted on X about trans Representative Sarah McBride, writing something to the effect that McBride is a man and daring the community notes to correct him. Alex Jones replied to the thread saying, "So creepy." Dorgan replied to both of them, "To Sorbo, keep bashing us, but do not wonder why we go berserk." To Jones, "Shut the fuck up, Alex, don't be so butthurt over somebody different. Then wonder why trans people go berserk." Less than 24 hours later, Dorgan carried out the attack. Again, not ideologically motivated. It was just this person was a mess mentally. The right is framing this as part of a pattern of trans shooters and pointing to the berserk posts as evidence that trans ideology leads to violence. They're also connecting it to a mass attack in Tumbler Ridge, Canada, about a week earlier that also involved a trans-identified shooter. However, I want to address that real fast. Gender identity demographics of mass shooters in the United States between January 1st, 2013 and September 15th, 2025. Approximately 1% of the United States population identifies as trans, but only 0.05% have unconfirmed gender identity, and 0.09% have trans or non-binary gender identity. So trans people are disproportionately, by a lot, less likely to commit a mass attack. It's a nonsensical line of attack against trans people because they're fucking scumbags. The left is pointing out that Dorgan was actually politically right-leaning. The shooter had posted support for Representative Thomas Massie and Marjorie Taylor Greene, and had identified as a Trump supporter in 2024 posts. They're also noting that this was fundamentally a domestic violence/family dispute situation, not an ideological attack. The bottom line is this person is just, mentally ill. That's it. And it was not connected to them being trans. They didn't do these things because they're trans or any of that stuff. Just a reminder, I would really appreciate it if you guys checked out my Patreon. If you're not going to donate, you don't have to, but follow me there at the very least. owenmorgan.com/Patreon. Just in case something happens with the government or whatever. It would be really good if you had some way to connect with me and my content. I'm really concerned about that. And maybe you should consider that for other creators too.
And when I put that thing out there about Senator McBride, I said, just tell me how I'm wrong. Because the reality is, she is a male, biological male. It's as simple as that. That guy responded, had no idea until friends were telling me this was going on. And I don't think that was a catalyst to make him go do what he's doing. I mean, why?
Well, the things that Kevin Sorbo says and does hurt people. They hurt people. I think this person was just mentally ill. I think that's the bottom line. Again, it wasn't about ideology or whatever. I think this is just a family attack. But Kevin Sorbo is actually contributing to people dying, like taking their own lives. He's contributing to the suffering tangibly in people's lives by doing this type of shit.
Why am I being scrutinized for telling the truth when he should be the one held responsible for his actions? I mean, it's absolutely crazy out there. It's like we're forced to accept mental illness as normal now. And he
still does not understand that, like, the things that he's saying and doing are directly leading to people's deaths. Does he not realize that?
The interview with his daughter who survived that shooting, and she said right there, for the last 10 years, he's been transitioning and he's suffering from mental illness. Those are words from his own daughter.
Nobody denied that. I don't understand what point he's making.
Yeah, that was, this was reported. Dorgan underwent gender reassignment surgery in 2020. His ex filed for divorce in 2020 on the grounds of not just that gender reassignment surgery, narcissistic and personality disorder traits, and obviously stated that as well. But just getting back to statements, and the alleged gunman who is deceased responded to you, and it wasn't just you, it was Alex Jones that he responded to again, saying, "Shut the F up, Alex, don't be so butthurt over somebody different, then wonder why trans people go effing berserk." And he uses that term again. But you pointed to this. Obviously, there's anger, there's frustration by this user in attacking others on the platform. Do you think that mental illness is being mistreated, rather?
I love how they're not talking about the fact that Kevin Sorbo is literally getting people killed today. Like, this is a very tangible example. Again, I think that this is a case of someone having a mental illness, but is what Kevin Sorbo said and did, was that the catalyst to something insane happening? Not that it would be justified, but I don't know. But I love how they're blaming the trans person instead of recognizing what's being shoved in their face right now, that Kevin Sorbo is bullying trans people and literally leading to their deaths, and they're just ignoring that completely.
I don't think we're paying attention to it. It's out there. Like I said, why are we accepting it as normal behavior? It's not normal behavior. They're showing over and over again that every time something like this happens and violence happens, we just kind of blow it off. We release these people. They do violent acts, not just these people. We got illegal aliens. There's so many cases of people have done horrific things, and yet we do nothing about to help them, when the problem is they should be.
Yeah, and what are we going to do to help them? Put them in prison? Is that what you're saying? Like, not attackers, but just people? Just trans people? Should they be just sent to prison? Is that what he's saying? I think that's what he's saying.
There should be care for them. There really should be. Look, there's a great George Orwell quote, and he says, "In a time of deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act." And that's such a great, that was decades and decades ago.
And you're the truth teller, right, Kevin?
And there's so much truth to what he said. And the truth is the most important thing. And people want to sit there and tell us that we should stop telling the truth, which is so weird to me. So it's absurd to me that we even have these conversations. It's absurd we have to have conversations about men and boys competing in women's sports. The world has got to...
nobody is even having that debate about men competing in women's sports. This is almost not happening at all. I think this happened a few years ago, where there was somebody who had been taking HRT for years who competed. And after taking HRT for years, Olympics committees and scientists determined that there is no real difference between a cis woman and this person and a trans woman's physical strength or whatever. There is, in effect, no difference. But again, it doesn't even matter, because this isn't happening anymore anyway. They're fighting ghosts that simply aren't there.
Wake up, because it's crazy. And where are the doctors in this discussion? Why are the doctors should be on your show talking about what they've been dealing with this guy over the last 10, 12 years?
These people are fucking scumbags. And even when it can't be made any more obvious that you are literally leading to people's deaths, you're still refusing to see it. These people are just evil, and they will never connect with reality. They just won't. I feel like I've been holding my breath waiting for them to connect with reality. It's just not going to happen. These are the statistics. So 97.5% are cis men, 2% are cis women, 0.5% are trans. These graphs should tell you all you need to know about the situation. Trans people are far more likely to be victims, is the bottom line. They're just lying, as they do. Tell me what you think in the comments. Fucking vile, dude. I just created a new website, firesidewatch.com. You can watch videos with friends, and everybody can play or pause the video. I made it so I could collaborate with other YouTubers, but I figured I might as well make it available to everybody. On top of that, you can add videos to the queue, upvote them, and sort by most upvoted. Give it a look, firesidewatch.com. And while you're at it, check out my Patreon, owenmorgan.com/Patreon. You can follow me there for free. That's all I've got for you. If you like what I do and you want to see me continue to do it, don't forget to check me out on Patreon. I just finished writing a book titled Was Hitler an Atheist? It talks about religions during the Third Reich and how they work together. Catholics, Jehovah's Witnesses, and Protestants. And I even address the lies told by the evangelical world about Bonhoeffer. It's on Audible and Amazon. Okay, thanks for watching, guys.